So, hello all. So, yesterday we created function modules and we have also created function groups, function group. So, which is a container of relevant function modules, right? So, what is a function group? So, function group contains relevant function modules or it groups the relevant function modules. Okay. So, all the function modules available in the function group shares the common data or common data declarations, right? So what happens whenever you create a function module and assign that function group? So for each function module, one include program will be created, right? In the function group. Whenever you create a function module or assign the function group, a new include program will be automatically added to that function group. Okay. So whatever the code you implemented in the function module, that will be available in that include program. Whatever you can see in SC37, so you can navigate from the include program also. There is one top include in the function group. So that is common for all the function modules. Whatever the global data, right? Whatever the global data declarations we have, all the function modules will access that global data in the top declaration. That's why we group only relevant function modules related to a specific functionality. For example, sales order data. So we group all the sales order data related function modules in one function group so that they can share common data or common memory, right? When you group function modules in one function group, it will allow only one developer at a time to edit or change function modules of that function group. The other developer try to change the same function module, sorry, one more function module which is related to the same function group, it will show some dependency. Okay, because both shares the common function group. So what are the types of function modules? Regular function module or normal function module. This can be called only within the same system, same server. RFC function module, remote enabled function module. What is this? So remote enabled function module can be called in other SAP system to access the data, right? To read the data or to create the data in other SAP systems. We use what type of function modules? Remote enabled function modules. For this, RFC connection is required. The transaction code for RFC connection SM59. Okay, here we maintain the connections, RFC connections. For example, there are two SAP servers, server A and server B. If you want to access data which is in server B, right? So you can call this remote enabled function module using a RFC connection. So it will read the data in the system B and system A can access the data, right? So when update task function modules will be used, third type of function module, update task function modules. For example, you are updating multiple database tables and you need to make sure all the table insertion or deletion, insert or update operations are successful. Then only you need to insert the data in database. Otherwise, if there is any one failure in any one table, you want to revert or roll back all the changes you did to the multiple changes. So at that time, what type of function modules we use? Update task function modules, because it triggers after commit work. Once everything is completed, everything is successful, then we can trigger the commit work. Then only it will confirm the changes to the database. What are the parameters available in function modules? What are the function or parameters available in function modules? Import. What is import? What is import parameter in function module?
It will take a input.
Yeah, it will accept input. So we cannot change the value. Whatever the input we are passing, we cannot change it inside the function module. Okay, you cannot change. There is no access to change the input what you pass in the input import parameters. Export parameter. What is export parameter? It returns the output, right? Whatever the value,
Gives the output.
yeah, it
Returns
returns the
output.
output. We need to pass the value inside the function module, otherwise it will return blank value, right? So you need to pass, when you are creating the function module, you need to return some output through exporting parameter. Okay, what is next one? Changing parameter. What is this changing parameter?
Changing.
Simply import plus
It will have both
export,
import and export.
right? So we can pass one value and we can return the updated value, okay, corrected value. So in such cases we can use changing parameter. Okay, for example, you are doing some data correction in one function module, right? So you need some input, right? So you are going to pass that input through changing parameter, and inside the function module it will apply some calculations and return the updated value in the same parameter. Okay, but what is the difference here? When you pass input through import parameter, you cannot change it inside the function module. You can just use that input, right? But if you pass input through changing parameter, you can change the value even. Okay. Other one is tables. What is this tables? To pass internal table data as input or return output. Internal table data as output, right? What do you mean by internal table data? Collection of records, multiple records. You can pass in as input to the function module, or you can return internal table like structure as output, multiple records as output. But this is obsolete. What do you mean by obsolete? Outdated, right? Outdated. We have alternative concept for this tables parameter. What is the next parameter we have in function module?
Exceptions.
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 Yeah. See, when I'm talking about obsolete object, they are still available in SAP, but not recommended to use. Those kind of objects we refer them as obsolete objects in SAP. Okay, they're downgraded. Like we have alternative functionality provided. Okay, going forward, not recommended to use. That's what obsolete means in SAP. Okay, you might ask like why they have still provided that option, right? Because lot of standard functionalities which are developed years ago are already using this, right? Going forward, they recommend not to use a tables parameter and to use the alternative options. Next one is exceptions. Exceptions. What is the use of exceptions? To raise the errors occurred in function module. So whatever the errors occurred in program, how you are raising? Using message statement, right? Yes or no? How you raise the error in report programs?
King, sir.
Using message statement, right?
So you are not audible, sir.
Start again. So in report programs, we use message, right? Error message to raise the errors. In function modules, what do we use? Exceptions. To raise the errors, we use exceptions. Rise. This is the syntax to raise the exception. Okay. This is the syntax to raise the exception. Is everyone clear on this? Import, export, changing tables and exceptions. Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
So yesterday we created one simple function module to calculate or to add two numbers. What are the inputs for this? Two values, value 1 and value 2, type integer. And what is the output? We are returning the output in export parameter. We are not using changing tables. We are not raising any exceptions, right? In source code, we are implementing the actual logic. How can you raise exceptions? Let's see how can you raise exceptions in the function module. How can you define the exception and how to raise the exceptions? So what is the use of exceptions? What is the use of exceptions?
To, to raise
To,
the errors.
to raise any errors which are occurred inside the function module. Okay. So that we can capture those errors in the program, calling program. We'll see how to capture the errors. For example, no input blank value 1. Description. So I've defined two exceptions. You can give any name, any meaningful name, okay? But it won't accept any spaces. You need to use underscore. So I'm using two exceptions, blank value 1 and blank value 2. I've defined the exceptions. Now how to raise the exception? So what is the purpose of these exceptions in this function module? Whenever user did not pass any input in value 1 or value 2, I want to raise the exceptions because these are important for the calculation, right? Without these, we cannot do calculations. Yes or no? Can we do this calculation without value 1 or value 1 or value 2?
No, sir.
So that's why I'm raising exceptions. If these inputs are blank, okay? If
Initial.
initial and if, how to raise the exception? Using rise, rise and the
Right.
exception name, this one. Similarly, input parameter 2, value 2 is blank, then raise the other exception, right? Activated the function module. Now, how to capture these exceptions in the calling program? Simple. How many of you know sub-RC check? How many of you know sub-RC check? SY sub-RC.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
What is the use of it?
Like sub-RC 0 and sub-RC 4.
Sub-RC 0 means it is successful. As of now, we have used for select statements, right?
Successful.
So here in function modules, you can capture exceptions using SY sub-RC. Now, if any exception is raised, right, how can you know which exception is raised in the calling program? If sub-RC equal to 1, then first exception. If sub-RC equal to 2, then second exception. 3, then third exception. 4, then fourth exception. That's how you can capture the exceptions in the calling program. Okay. Let me call this function module in the program. Please remember, whenever you do changes to your function module, whenever you do changes to the existing function module, you need to call it again. Otherwise, it will throw runtime exceptions, runtime errors. Okay. If you apply any changes, if very important is if you do any changes to the importing parameters or exporting parameter names, right? Or if you add in one more importing parameter, so it is very important that you need to call the function module again. Okay. How to call the function module? What is the step to
Go
call
to
the function
pattern,
module? Yes, go to pattern,
then call.
provide the function
Go to
module name,
pattern, then call.
Call function.
pass the input parameters, and return the output. If you see, exceptions are generated in the calling function module. Exceptions are generated. Yeah. Blank value 1, what is the number? 1. Blank value 2, number 2. Others, rest of the others, sub RC
3.
equal to 3. When? If sub RC equal to 1, that means what? Which exception is rising?
Blank value 1.
Yes.
Blank value 1.
Else if sy hyphen equal to 2, then if you don't pass two values, value 1 and value 2, which exception will rise?
3, sir.
Third exception.
Others.
Why? Why third exception? Observe in the
Others,
function
no, sir.
module.
Like 1 is not there, 2 is not
Ah,
there.
okay. First, observe the code. Which exception we are raising first? Blank value 1, right?
Blank.
Observe the
Yes,
sequence
sir.
of the code. First, we are checking for value 1 and raising the exception if value 1 is not available. It won't go further. Once the exception is raised, it won't go further. It will terminate the function module execution and go back to the calling program. Now which exception will rise when you don't pass value 1 and value 2?
One, sir.
Value 1, right? Because first we are raising this. Immediately function module execution will terminate and return to the calling program, right? So that's why even if you don't pass two values, the first rising exception will be triggered, okay, in a sequence. Once the exception is triggered, it will terminate the function module execution. Let's check this. I think we need to observe one important thing here in function module import parameters. In import parameters, we have optional and mandatory inputs. Optional inputs and mandatory inputs. If you think these inputs are optional, user may or may not provide the inputs. Then you need to mark them as optional inputs. Okay. Otherwise, they are mandatory. Without that value, you cannot execute the function module. Okay. Clear? For now, I keep mandatory. Removed optional checkbox. So in general, when you are creating function modules in the projects, few you need to make it mandatory and few parameters you need to make it optional. Okay. If there is a value, use it. Otherwise, ignore. Just let's test this function module. So I'm not passing any input here. Execute. Which exception is raised? Observe the exception. Blank value 1. That exception is
Blank value 1.
raised. If you are not passing value 2, then second exception will rise because first if in the first if statement that will be successful, right? How it will capture in a calling program? Activate the program. Then I'm not passing second input. What is a sub RC? What is a sub RC? Sub RC value is 2, right? So I'm passing a value in parameter 1 and not passing any value in parameter 2. That's why which exception is raised? This one. Blank value
Second
2
exception.
exception. Blank value 2 exception is raised. That's why sub RC equal to 2 now, right? Let me remove the value in parameter 1 and execute now. Now I'm not passing parameter 1. Which exception is raised now? This one. Blank value 1 exception is raised, right? Sub RC equal to 1, right? Is everyone clear on the exceptions? How to raise the exception?
Sorry.
Yeah.
So then for others also we should
Mm.
keep any if statement, sir.
Yes. For others also, you need to keep whatever the exceptions you want to capture, you need to keep all of them in the if statement. Okay. Or sometimes we
Yes.
just ignore all the exceptions. We'll check whether it is successful or not. Simply use sub RC equal to 0. If sub RC equal to 0, proceed further. Otherwise, else return the error like this. If sub RC equal to 0, execute the next functionality. Else raise the error message.
Okay.
All the exceptions, whatever the exceptions it raised, we consider it as error now, right? Instead of checking each exception. Clear?
Okay.
So here you write
Sir,
next level
sir,
functionality. Yes.
next two options we have pass. So what is that, sir?
Where is it?
Uh, after exception, sir. We
Okay.
do have. Sorry,
This one, pass by
import.
value. Yeah, we have a concept called pass by value and pass by reference. So this I'll explain when we are working on RFC function modules.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Is there unclear on exceptions? Now let's create one
Yes,
function
sir.
module to read the business data or to modularize the program. Let me find one program where we implemented all the code in the program itself. Merge PO data. I'll take this. So what are we doing here? ZDemo merge PO data program. What are we doing here? We are selecting data from
But
three different tables, right? EKKO, EKPO, and MAKT tables, and we are merging the data into one final internal table, correct? Yes or no? Is that what we are doing here?
Yes, sir.
So let's try to implement using function modules. We'll keep this code inside the function module, okay? And we do this calculation of merging inside the function module so that you can understand how to pass importing and exporting parameters for single variables, work area like structures, and internal tables. Here in this function module, what type of value we are passing here? Variable like structure or work area like structure or internal table like structure? Single value, right?
Work area.
It's like
Sorry.
it's like a variable,
Single value, sir. Single value.
single value. So we can also pass work area like structures, a single record as input, or we can pass internal table data as input. Let's see all those different things. If you want to pass work area, what you need to do? For example, uh, use this naming convention IS for work areas, or you can use any naming convention underscore EKKO. If you want to pass EKKO record as input, type. What is the type you need to provide here? EKKO. Now, what type of object it is? Is it going to accept a single record as input or multiple records? I'm referring to the table. Is it going to accept single record or multiple records as input?
single record, sir.
Yes. Even if you are referring the type table, it will accept only single record as input. It's a work area like structure, right? To pass internal table data, what is the available option for? What is the option available to pass the internal table data as input or return the internal table data as output? For now, we have a tables option,
Table, sir.
but
Table.
this is outdated, right? So we have an
Table, sir.
alternative for this using a table type. We can pass the internal table data as input to function module import parameters using table types. Okay. So we pass the table type name here. Then it will accept internal table data as input. Okay. If you want to pass single value, for example, material number I underscore Matner type. What is the type you need to provide here? You want to pass material number as input, single value like variable like structure. What you need to pass here? Data element. You need to pass
That
data
element.
element. Then it can accept only single value as input. right? So if you want to pass single record, you need to take table or structure name here, table name or structure name. If you want to pass complete table record as input, take complete table reference. Or if you want to pass only few fields of the table, then what you need to take here? Create a data dictionary structure and
Structure.
pass that structure as input here. Clear? It is same with export parameters. For single value, use data element. For record, use table or structure reference. For internal table like structure, use table type. Okay, we'll see how to create table types and all. It's very simple. For now, I'm deleting here. Now let's modularize this program using function modules. So what are the inputs for this program? For now, let's
Thank you,
take,
Vandana.
yeah, we have multiple select options here. So function module, by default, function modules cannot accept select options as input. Function modules cannot accept select options as input, right? We need to do some workaround to pass select options data as input to the function modules. For now, we'll take only parameter, one single value parameter, okay, for the one function module. Let's take vendor number. Let's take vendor number as input to select the EKKO data. Let's create one function module for EKKO. You can do all together in single function module, but now we are going to create three different function modules because you need to understand how to pass the importing and exporting parameters, how to pass the single record, how to pass the variable like structure, and how to pass the internal table like data as inputs, and how to return
Sir,
internal
your
table
voice
data
is
as
breaking,
output.
sir. Sir, your voice is
Yeah,
breaking,
sorry.
sir.
Is it clear now?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay. So let's create the function module to read the header level data. So I'll assign the same function group what we have created yesterday. Save the function module. Continue. Now what is the input for EKKO? I'll take listener vendor number as input. Okay, one vendor number. I'm not taking the select option. I underscore. What is the type? What is the type of the vendor?
Listener only, sir.
ELIFN. Is the single value input or record?
Single value input.
Single value input. Okay. Now that is the input to read the EKKO. And what is the output? What is the output of EKKO? These fields, right? So we are returning three fields: EBLN, Bookers, Lifner. Are we returning all the fields of the EKKO table? Are we returning all the fields of the EKKO
No, sir,
table?
only
No,
stated
we are
field.
returning only three fields, right? So if you are returning all the fields of the EKKO table, you can define like this: ES underscore EKKO type EKKO, right? You can return the complete data as a output. But here we are returning only three fields, right? Now what we need to do? Create a structure
Structure.
Z demo S underscore EKKO. Create it. Select data element. Sorry, structure. What are the fields? Use the same sequence or follow sequence what you maintained in the structure. Type EBLN, sorry, Booker's company code. I think data element is also same, and vendor. Please note that you don't need to use technical field names here. You can use any name, any meaningful name here. Okay, as field name. Okay, but data element should be technical name what is available in the SAP. Now activate. Do you have any currency and quantity fields here? No, right?
No, no, sir.
Activate the structure. Now use this structure here. Okay, we are using structure, right? So what is the input for this function module? Vendor number. And we are trying to read purchase orders created for that vendor, right? So what is the possibility of records? Are we going to get only one record for each vendor or multiple purchase orders for each vendor?
Multiple purchase orders.
There is a chance of multiple
Multiple.
records, right? One vendor might have multiple purchase orders, right?
Yes, sir.
But if you use this structure name
Yes, sir.
here, if you use this structure name here as associated type, so what, how it is acting? This importing parameter, is it like a variable, work area or internal table? You're passing structure name
Internal
here.
tables.
No, it acts as a work area like structure. It can accept only single record. If you use table name or structure name, it can accept only single record. It's a work area like structure. Now, do we need work area like structure or internal table like structure? To return the output, are we returning single record or multiple
We need
records? Are we going
multiple
to
records. We
multiple
need internal
records, right?
table.
Now, do we need work area like structure or internal table like structure to return multiple records? We need internal table like structure, right? Is it even clear or confusing? Okay, I'll start from the beginning. What is the input we are passing to this function module?
Structure.
What is the input we are passing to this function module? What is the input? Vendor number, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
What is the expected output? What is the
Yes,
output
sir.
we are trying to return? Corresponding purchase orders, right? Purchase orders created for this vendor from EKKO table. Are we going to return a single record or multiple records?
Multiple records.
For each vendor, we might have multiple purchase order records in EKKO. Now, to return that output, what type of structure we need? Variable like structure, work area like structure, or internal table like structure?
Internal table structures.
Since we are returning multiple records, we need internal table like structure. But if you use table name or just a structure name in the associated type, so what type of object it will be? Internal table like structure or work area like structure? It acts as a work area like structure. It can accept only
What
single
area?
record.
Area.
It can accept only single record. If you use simple, if you use basic structure or table name. But how can you make this as a internal table like structure? We need to create table type. What do you need to create?
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Okay. So what we need to use to pass the internal table data as output, or to return the to pass the internal table data as input and return the internal table data as output, what we need to use? Table type. If you use table or structure, it acts as a work array like structure. Okay. So we need to create table type to pass internal table data as output, or to return the internal table data as output. How can you create the table type? To create the table type, what do we need? Structure or a table name. How to create the table type? Go to S11. Go to S11. Here in data types, provide the table type name. First, you need to know the structure of the table name. We have already created this structure with 3 fields, right? Now I'm changing the name. I'm using this name zdemo t underscore ekko. Create, select table type option instead of data element and structure. Select table type. What is the line type? You need to pass here table name or the structure name. So line type means table name or structure name. You need to pass here. Save it. Save the table type and activate the table type. So object is activated. Go back. So in the function module, what you need to pass here? Since you are returning multiple records as output, let's keep it as it is so that you can observe the difference. ET, I'm using this naming convention ET for multiple records, right? I'll use ET as naming convention for multiple records. EKKO type. What is the option I am taking here? Table type. First, if you want to return only single record, you can just use a table name or structure name here. But if you want to return multiple records, you need to use table type. You need to create a table type. Where you can create the table type? Where you can create the table type?
In S11.
In S11 data types, you can create the
In
table types,
S11.
right? So let's first see this. I'm not implementing any code. Let me just activate it. I just defined one import parameter, that is vendor number, and export parameter to return the output. I defined two export parameters. One is ESCKKO, one is ETEKKO. For ESCKKO, structure name is the reference, structure is the reference. For ETEKKO, table type is the reference. Now just execute it. I'm just passing some number and execute. If you observe this, anyway, we are not passing any output. If you observe ESCKKO, click on this. It's a single record. But if you observe ETEKKO, what you can see here? Table like display, right? You can see this table symbol,
Yes, sir.
right? So that means it's a
Yes, sir.
internal table like structure. Okay, clear? Now I'm deleting this work area like structure because we are going to return multiple records. Exceptions, I'm defining one exception. I'm taking only one exception. Now write the code. So what is the input for this function module? Vendor number. What is the output? EKKO records. Select. So what are the fields we are selecting from EKKO? Observe the structure. So we are taking Only these three fields, EBLN, Bookers and Lifner. Do we need to define internal table? What is the where condition? Where Lifner equal to, what is the input here? Tell me what is the input? This right import parameter. So we'll get vendor value in this import parameter. Use the escape sign. Is everyone clear? What are we doing here? Activate it. So we are returning, we are taking vendor data as input and selecting data from EKKO. Is it going to provide output or not?
EKKO. So we are not
We
passing
have
the
to
output, exporting
write
from
statement.
Is it going to pass the output or not? Let's test. Let me take one proper vendor number. Where is this vendor number field? I can filter these columns here in change layout option. If you want to filter the columns, if you want to see only few columns, first select all, move this side and move whatever the columns you want to see. Company code, find it. Where is vendor? Not this.
Sir, is it in EKPO or EKKO, sir?
Are we in EKPO? No, in EKKO only, right? It should be in EKKO.
No, sir.
Supplier, this one.
EKKO.
Supplier, right? Continue. So this is the vendor number. I'll take one vendor number. 501. It contains multiple records. No, I think. Which one contains multiple records? For this one.
4104.
Yeah. Let me test it. Test the function module and execute. Did we return any output? Zero records, right? Why? Let me keep a breakpoint here.
We are not
Execute.
using exporting this
Write
export
statement.
parameter.
F5 sub RC equal to 0. That means 12 purchase order records are selected. 12 purchase order records are selected, right? Into this internal table. PO header internal table, it is selected 12 records, but output is blank because we are selecting the data, but we are not sending the data to the export parameter. We are not passing the data to the exporting parameter.
Export
That's
parameter.
why it is blank. If sy hyphen sub rc equal to 0, you are executing the functionality. but you are not returning the output, right? So now tell me, both ETEKKO structure and LTPO header data structure, both are same or different? What is the structure of ETEKKO? Double click on this type. Go to the
Same,
structure
sir.
name. It contains three fields: EBLN, Bookers and Lifner. Order also important. EBLN, Bookers and Lifner. Now what is the structure of LTPO data, PO header data? EBLN, Bookers, Lifner.
Same, sir.
The
EBLS,
same
Lucas and
sequence,
Lipman.
right? Same three fields with the same sequence. So both are in sync. Now you can pass it directly. ET underscore EKKO equal to LTPO header. Here, now you are returning the output. Test it, execute. Now 12 records are returned as output, right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
But there is another alternative. Since you are selecting same fields in the same order, just like this structure, instead of taking a separate internal table, you can directly take a exporting parameter name here in place of internal table, so that you don't need to separately pass the data to exporting parameter. Clear? You can take exporting parameter as internal table also. If both are in sync, this structure and the fields what you are selecting are same order, you can take internal table data directly in the select statement. Is everyone clear? So you don't need to pass it again.
Yes, sir.
It will pass it in the select statement itself. It will directly return the entries. Is everyone clear?
Yes. So here there is no need of writing a write statement or CL demo, sir.
No, we don't write statements or CLDemo outputs in function module. Where do we display the output? Not in function modules. To display the outputs in program level, not in the function module level,
Programs.
right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Activate this. Now we have header level data. What is the next data selection we have in the program? What is the next data we need to select?
Item level data.
Item level data, right? So what is the data we are selecting? EBLN, EBLP, five fields, five fields we are selecting from EKPO. What is the input for this EKPO table?
EKPO.
What is the input? We are using for all entries,
Lipman
right?
and
Header level data is the
Macro.
input. Header level
for
data is
all
the primary input for
the data
next
in
level
the
item data,
EKPO.
right? Now what is the input for the
Yes, sir.
EKPO of data selection function module? What is the input for the EKPO data function module? Header level data. Whatever the header level data we selected, that is the input for item level data function module. Yes or no? For now, forget about these select options. What is the primary input? This one, right? Header level internal table.
Yes,
Forget
sir.
about material select option. So header level data input is the primary input for this EKPO data function module. Now what is the input we need to pass for EKPO function module? The data whatever we selected in header level data
EKKO.
in
Yes,
EKKO.
sir.
We need to pass EKKO internal table output as a input. Let's create the function module. Read EKPO, create. I'm using same function group. So what you need to observe here, how to pass importing parameters and exporting parameters. That's what you need to observe. Okay. Usually you don't need to create multiple function modules to read from each table. You can keep all the data selection using one single join, right? Now what is the input for EKPO function module? EKKO data, right?
EKKO
Is it an internal table input or work area like input? Do we need to pass
Internal table input.
internal table? We need to pass the internal table data, right? Whatever the data we selected from EKKO, we need to pass that internal table data here. Define the parameter. Since we are passing internal table like structure, I'll use this naming convention IT. Importing table IT EKKO. What is the type we need to take? Do we need to take table name, structure name, or table type? What we need to
table
take
type,
here?
sir.
We need to take table type. How can you know what is the table type? What is the table type you need to take? This EKKO structure, right?
The
You've
one we have
already
used in
yeah,
EKKO.
you've already created a structure to select the EKKO data. Same exporting, whatever the exporting structure we have in the EKKO, use that as a importing in EKPO function module, right? Now, what is the output for EKPO? Records from EKPO
We
table.
have to create the structure, sir.
Yeah, we need to create a structure with required fields because you are not returning all the records, right? All the fields of the EKPO table, right? If you are just returning all the fields, you don't need to create a separate structure, right? So let's create a structure with the required
Yes, sir.
fields. EBLN, EBLP, Matner, S underscore EK, PO, structure. What are the other fields? TAX01. I don't know what is the data element of this. This one. I think for material number it is same. Data element name is also same. For NETWR, what is the data element? BWERT. Now what we need to maintain in structure, we are taking one currency and quantity field, right? NETWR. You need to maintain reference. Are you using unit here?
Reference.
Are you using unit in the structure? Unit field in the structure? What is
No,
the
sir.
unit field for
No, sir.
NETWR? Price unit. This one, PI
Uh,
and H. If we are using price unit here, you can refer same structure name. EKPO,
and
PI and H, right? If you are not
yes, sir.
using that, if you are
Yes,
not
sir.
using unit field in the current structure, what you need to do?
The check table we have used. We need to use, sir.
NETWR reference exists on the data type. Looks like we are using incorrect unit.
Sir, the down one, sir. Oh, currency value for PO order. The down one of net WR.
This is also currency. We are looking for unit. unit of measure, the currency unit.
Unit. Okay.
It's saying reference field is wrong. PINH exists. Maybe first we need to activate and provide the reference. Now let's check the standard reference, what it is using. Currency and quantity. Okay, for net price it is using wares, EKKO wares. Let's use for now. Or maybe we'll try wares here. Check. Okay, now it is accepting. Looks like PINH is not the suitable type. Okay. Oh, looks like it is decimal field. It's not unit of measure. It's not unit field. It's not price unit. It's a different one. That's why it's not accepting. This one is suitable. Where is it? Okay, let's check that later. Okay, so you can take like this and activate the structure. Oh, okay. Now we have a structure, right? But are we going to return multiple records or single record from EK pivot table? Multiple records, right? For that, what type of object we need to take to define the exporting parameter? Structure or table type?
Yes, sir.
Do we need to take structure or table type to return the multiple records?
Table type, sir.
Table type. Create the table type. I'm changing it to T.
Table type.
Yes. Components. Sorry. Sorry. Create table type. Provide the structure name. Whatever the structure you created. Sorry, not T. Yes, right. Activate the table type. Now go to function module. There is our function module. Now define the export parameter. ET. I'll take ET as export parameter for EKPO. Okay. Now go to source code. Implement the code. Select EBLN, EBLP. What are the fields? I'll just copy from here instead of writing all the fields.
Sir, sir, we have to add another field in the program, sir.
Which
Current
one?
unit field.
Ah, right. Yeah, we'll add unit. This one, right? WAERS. Okay. Now we need to follow for all entries rules, for all entries conditions. What are the for all entries conditions? The header table should not be empty. It should be in sorted order and no duplicates are
No
allowed.
duplicate.
Allowed.
Okay.
Since you are using inside the function module, do we need to take temporary structure? You don't need to take. And even you cannot change or modify this internal table because it's an importing parameter, right? You cannot apply sort, you cannot delete adjacent duplicates from this importing parameter structure. Then what you need to do? Take one table
The internal table.
equal to it underscore ekko. Then sort LTPO header by EBLN if not initial and if. So pass the header level data here in for all entries. Okay. If sy hyphen subars equal to 0 and if you need to pass item level data to exporting parameter, or you can use this exporting parameter structure in the item level data select statement. What is this field name? WAERS. Sorry, I don't think we have WAERS fields in the EKPO, right?
Sir, sir, in the joint, sir, in the merge program also we have to add it. Yes.
That's okay, but I don't think we have where's field in the EKPO table. I think this is in EKKO. For now, I am deleting this.
EKKO, sir.
Yeah, we have it in EKKO. In EKPO, that field is not available. I'm changing the structure as well. I will remove
In the
this.
structure also we have chosen EKKO, sir. In currency.
No, in currency, I'm using same structure reference because
Oh,
I've
okay.
used the same field, right? I've used the unit field in the structure itself. I'm changing it. I've removed the additional field because you can also do this, but you need to loop it again to populate the data to export parameter. Okay, activate. Now, what is the input for this EKPO function module? EKKO header level data, internal table structure,
Yes, sir.
right? And it is returning item level data as a output. Okay, so you need to make use of table types to define internal table like structures. Okay, if you want to pass or if you want to return only single record, you can use structure name or table name. Okay, so in the next session we'll complete this merging. We need to create one more function module to merge these two internal tables data into one final internal table. Then what is the input for that final internal table, sorry, that final structure final merging function module? We need to create one more function module to merge this header level data and item level data into one final output. What is the input for that function module? You need to pass header level data and
EKPO internal.
two inputs you need to pass. For the third function module, merging function module, you need to pass EKKO data and EKPO data. And you need to return, which one you need to return? Final output, right? Final output is the export parameter you need to define. Can you guys try that? Merging, create one function module to
Yes,
merge
sir.
EKKO data and EKPO data into one final output structure. What is the final structure? This one. You need to create one final output structure. I think you don't need to take MAKTX material text for now. Try with rest of the fields. Only fields from EKKO and EKPO. You need to pass EKKO, EKPO data as input for this third function module and return final output.